This is great. This is by far the biggest crowd we've ever had for one of these happy hours, which we've been doing since last March during the pandemic, just to pretend that life is normal. And we've been doing them on a lot of different topics. But it's really our privilege tonight to get a tour of EMEAPP. And it is the most extraordinary collection of musical instruments, and especially keyboard instruments that you can possibly imagine. It started out as a private collection. Now it's a nonprofit charitable organization that's involved in education and preservation of these instruments. So let me make a few introductions first. Vince Papillo Sr., are you out there?
I'm right here.
Yep, Vince is the founder and president, and it was his audacious vision that started the whole thing off. And nothing would have happened without Vince and his vision, and the idea that some years ago that instead of putting his money in the stock market, he ought to invest it in vintage keyboard instruments. So we're all the beneficiaries of that. Also, I'd like to introduce Vince Papillo Jr., who is carrying on the family legacy and has been extremely important in the development of EMEAPP. He now serves as the associate director and seems to be the guru of the big modular synths there. And our main guide tonight is Drew Raison, executive director of EMEAPP and longtime record producer and engineer, and helping to fulfill the great vision of this organization to preserve these instruments and to create educational opportunities for people to see, and even better, to play these instruments. So they're not locked up in a museum somewhere. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Drew, and he's going to be your tour guide tonight.
Well, folks, let's have a good time. This is a rare opportunity, and I'm honored to be the person that can deliver this for you. First off, if I can ask all the participants to please mute your microphones so we don't hear strange, spurious conversations happening in the background. We encourage questions. We have my nephew Corley in the other room on a computer, able to get questions to me, and Vince Papillo Jr., who was just introduced by Alan, is off in the other room right now, fine-tuning Keith Emerson's Moog and getting it all up to speed for a beautiful demo to show you people what's going on. So I'm going to read to you a chunk of our website. This is an important description. EMEAPP is 3 years old, about 2 weeks ago. And because of the COVID situation, everything is changing. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, in many ways, it's a good thing. But we need your help. We want the world to know about EMEAPP, and we invite you to invite people to check us out at emeapp.org and on Facebook and Instagram, which is probably how you guys found us. The Electronic Music Education and Preservation Project, EMEAPP, is the steward of a privately held, world-class curated collection of rare vintage electronic instruments and stage-used gear. This includes effects units, amplifiers, organs, synthesizers, electromechanical instruments, guitars, prototypes, vintage audio-video media, and recording studio gear. In addition, EMEAPP itself is developing its own collection. It is our charge to cultivate and reap excellent knowledge from this unique resource and return it to our members and the world. And we do this as a learning center through research projects, creative endeavors, media programming, and tours. There's so much to be harvested from the history within this collection, and EMEAPP has keys to the vault. EMEAPP is a private museum, a critical learning center, and a multimedia production studio nicely packed into a brick and mortar facility outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's the text description of what EMEAPP is right now. Pre-COVID, we were very hands-on. We always had people coming through. We took on projects as we could to allow people to get their hands on these instruments, but obviously things have changed. So that kind of puts the fire under us to create more original content and bring it to you, our audience, our members especially, to continue this growing. Everybody can harvest from this collection. This doesn't have to be a private collection where everything ends up in somebody's basement. This stuff is accessible. Sadly, we can't just open the door to the public because, well, it's just not possible. We're not built for that. But we are built to allow people in small groups with private tours, and it's a very exciting thing. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off with a tour here in the lower workshop. You might notice this behemoth behind me. This is a wonderful example of what you're going to find at EMEAPP. This is an ARP 2500 modular synthesizer. And this one was created from a number of smaller units. Vince Papillo Sr., our curator and founder, was able to source enough components to be able to build this very large unit with wings, dual wings. And it has, Vince Papillo Jr. can correct me on this, but I believe that it has every module that ARP made with the exception of one. And we have the greater of the two modules. We're missing the lesser of the two modules. But it is a fully working unit. And that, of course, is said in air quotes because what does fully working mean? Mike Hunter, Ambient, the electronic musician artist, has been in here working on a piece. And perhaps we'll talk to him later and find out how much of it is actually working. But it's a breathtaking sounding machine from the mind of Alan R. Perlman, David Friend, and a number of other people at ARP. So that's kind of a nice piece to have sitting behind me. I'm going to scooch my little cart here and show you guys an ARP Quadra polysynth over yonder and an ARP mixing board, which was just amazing. Vince Jr. hops on one of our semi-trucks and comes off with an ARP mixing board. It's called an ARP 8. Does it sound good? Sounds all right. Is it special? Yeah, it's special. It's an ARP 8 mixing board. I don't even know what that is. So I'm going to read you another little chunk right here, which is I want to talk about our audience and why our audience is so important. And I'd like to start off by thanking all of you for joining us. We do this on a small basis. It's usually a high school group or a small organization. But when Alan Lenhoff approached EMEAPP about doing this, we discussed inviting a larger group of people. This should not have to be just a tiny group. So we opened the door at the last minute. And I'm so happy to see how many people are involved here. This video will likely be online and available for you to watch in the future. But we are also secretly developing a tour for our membership, which is a 10-module tour of the entire EMEAPP facility. And we really get into it. I mean, we look at instruments, we try instruments. It opens the door to our next step, which is more videos about specific instruments and genres of instruments. So that having been said, our audience is grand. It's a very focused audience. We're all like-minded. We appreciate music, the items, the history of electronic music, specific brands, specific genres. But ultimately, where is our audience? And when we started EMEAPP, we decided we could be a local organization, Southeastern Pennsylvania. We could be a statewide organization. We could be an East Coast organization, or we can be an American organization. We chose to have a global reach. And through our social networking and through our website, we targeted specific zones that have little explosive pockets of electronic music being generated. Specifically, and this is the reading part of it, obviously we're in the United States and Canada. Belgrade, Serbia is a hub of electronic music. Reykjavik, Iceland, Goa, India, Melbourne, Australia with MES, the Melbourne Electric Sound Studios, the United Kingdom, all of Europe and Asia. Our global reach is growing. I haven't had a chance to look to see who's on right now, but I'm sure that we have many representatives of many countries across the globe. Who is our audience? Our audience is physicists, electronic engineers, designers, builders, creators, and technicians. These are the minds behind the instruments and the technology of the machines. Our audience is producers, players of all levels, from beginning to career professionals. There's a lot of them. It's a very, very hands-on, supportive kind of a community. Our audience is pioneers, innovators, and visionaries. And we put a lot of focus on these folks. They're the ones that brought us what you're about to see. Do you know about Robert Moog? Do you know about Jim Marshall, Alan R. Perlman, Don Buchla, David Cockerell, Wendy Carlos, George Secor, Doug Curtis, Harold Boda, Roger Lynn, Jim Scott, Tom Oberheim? You should know. These are very important people. Electronic music would not be electronic music if it weren't for these people. So we focus on the pioneers and the visionaries that brought us here. Lastly, historians, writers, publishers, and collectors. And these are the people that have information or they're looking for intricate details on objects or categories within our collection. And we regularly provide photographs of the outsides and the insides of stuff to help people put together comprehensive magazine articles, online articles, books, etc. And we've been in many books. I would like to stop and talk about the Classic Keys book. It was one of our earlier steps getting into publications. And Alan had reached out to us with David Robertson and said, you know, would you participate? Can we get some images? Well, Vince Jr. and I learned how to photograph images of these objects for the book. High resolution, beautiful, stunning book. It's a very exciting book. I suggest you all go out and get a copy of it because it's fantastic. We've also been in the most recent book called Stomp Boxes, Patch and Tweak, and we just had a Vintage Guitar Magazine article come out maybe 2 or 3 days ago on some of our guitar amplifiers with provenance, we'll say. I recommend that you look it up. Vintage Guitar Magazine. It's called Raiders of the Lost Amplifier. It's a Raiders of the Lost Rig. We're very excited to be a part of it. The next question is, how do we reach our audience? Well, you know how we reached you, and that was probably through social networking. Our Facebook, our Instagram, our website are our main portals, and we create feature articles and videos that allow you to see, hear, and experience these otherwise kind of untouchable instruments. It's not like you can just walk out and find yourself an ARP 2500. Well, let's put you in front of it. Let's put it in front of you. And that, in fact, is why Ambient, Mike Hunter, is in here doing a project right now. Hopefully next week we'll be shooting the video. It'll take us a little bit of time to tweak it, make sure it sounds beautiful, and we will deliver it to you on EMEAPP.org. While you're at EMEAPP.org, I invite you to become a free member. The free memberships carry on for just a short while longer, and then it becomes a paid monthly or yearly thing. So get on board while you can right now and dig deep and take a look at what we have at EMEAPP.org. On an academic level, we also have the EMEAPP Institute, which is driven by Dr. Ben Luce, who is deeply involved in the synthesizer world, as was his father, David A. Luce. And Ben is up in Vermont right now. Hopefully he's dialed in and he's listening to it. And he's in the middle right now, not in the middle. He's actually kind of approaching the finish line on a wonderful, wonderful study of the mini Moog and the electronic design behind it. And this has been years in the making, and we're very excited to have this getting wrapped up so we can bring it to you. So again, I invite you to come join us as a free member of EMEAPP.org. I would like to show you guys some stuff right now. You've seen the ARP stuff behind me. I'm going to grab my telephone here on a gimbal. And Robert, you can go ahead and make sure that that one is hot for everybody. I'm going to take the opportunity to spin my camera around the other way, if I can hit the right button. Welcome to EMEAPP.
Wow.
This is our lower workshop. What you're seeing here is a collection of pretty much fully working items that Vince Papillo Sr. has curated for us. I'm going to start over here because would you look at that bad boy? Yeah, so we have a problem with Oberheim. We love it. This is an OBX, beautiful condition, should be, nah, how funny. Let me get this guy in tune and we'll play it for you in just a little while. But this is the big, beefy Oberheim synthesizer packed
Drew,
with,
if I could interrupt you for just a moment.
Please do.
Just so everybody knows, if you want to watch this full screen instead of on a little tiny thumbnail, if you don't know already, if you move your cursor to the upper right corner of the video that Drew's showing right now and click the 3 dots in the blue box and click on pin, it will make his video full screen and stay that way for the duration.
And then you can see everything up close and personal.
Yes.
Yamaha Cp80, this big bad boy. I'm sure you've heard the Cp80 on many important recordings. Peter Gabriel's early work. There's a lot of Cp80. Joe Jackson, you hear it all over the place. We're going to spin over this way. We have a Hammond organ. Vince Papillo Sr. Could probably answer this one better than me because I do not know which model this is, or if it's a factory chopped Hammond, something he did or what. But basically, Al Goff came over and taught us the mathematics behind the Keith Emerson Hammond mod. And this was our guinea pig. So basically, when you fire this thing up, it sounds like Keith, as long as you can play like Keith. And if you can play like Keith, I'd like to meet you.
So, Drew, actually, it's an A100.
That is an A100, really? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a chopped A100.
Yeah, it's a chopped A100 put into a. There's a lady, Barbara Denelin, who's an organ player from back in the late 70s, early 80s. She's still playing. That's the same case that she had. I saw that case, and I had it built like that because of what she had.
That's awesome. Okay, well, there we have it. And I saw Brian Parnell jump in with the same answer because Brian knows everything about Hammonds. Freaky amount of knowledge in that guy's head. On top of it is a Selena string ensemble. You've probably, maybe, have seen or heard about the string ensemble. And you may know it as a Selena, or you may know it as an ARP, depending on what year it was and whether ARP had licensed the Selena at that point. But this is one of the string machines that kind of changed the trajectory of string machines. Over here, we have the white guy there is a Melotron M400. You've certainly heard Melotrons, I'm sure. Sitting on top of it is a pro soloist by ARP, which is Tony Banks in a box. This is pretty much a not terribly programmable solo synth, but it's funny because you look at it and there's not a whole lot of meat on the bones, but when you play it, I got to turn my volume. Oh, I see something got muted over here. There we go. When you play it, we'll come back on the playing it thing and show you. There we go. It sounds like Tony Banks because that's what Tony had. Yeah, instant genesis. Just add water. You're exactly right, Mike. Next to it, we have an Elka Synthex, which I knew nothing about before I started at EMEAPP. And Vince Sr. tells me all about it. Oh, it's supposed to be lush. It's huge. It's big. It's fat. It's amazing. It's stereo. It's glorious. And I plugged it in, and damn if he wasn't right on all of the above. It is a breathtaking poly synth. This particular one also has a hitch in its get along. It has to warm up for probably about an hour or so. And if you don't let it warm up, it just kind of talks to you on its own, which is charming and irritating, but I consider it to be charming. It's just telling us how it feels. Down below, you will see, of course, the Moog Taurus bass pedals, which Vince Jr., come on over here. Get your new shoes in here. Vince got himself a nice pair of Vans. Check this out. So I just saw a message from Johnny asking if we have any Neutron pedals. We do have Neutron pedals. And in fact, I just stumbled on them yesterday, and we're going to crack them out because they're tremendously wonderful sounding. Gx1 by Roland. I frankly don't know a lot about this, except it's a poly synth. I couldn't afford it when I was younger. I could afford the JX3P. So this one, Vince Jr. put up here just a short while ago, and we're going to fire it up and take it for a spin sometime soon. And on top, of course, is a beautiful Odyssey, an early Odyssey in white. Okay, synth people, take a deep breath. Here we go. Oh, yeah. That'll be a Yamaha Cs80. I'm going to even open up the little preset drawer here so you can see what looks like a bunch of graphic equalizers. But in fact, they replicate every control on the fascia of the synthesizer. So you have 2 rows that you can manually design, and then you have 4 presets that you can set with those little faders, and then you can access those memories right here. This has polyphonic aftertouch, which is ridiculous. Let me kick on that poly aftertouch and you can hear polyphonic glide. And aftertouch. And a ribbon that I would show you, but I'm holding a telephone in my other hand, so I can't. But that's the CS80, 250 pounds of flame-throwing, luscious deliciousness. And you could think of bands like Toto, who use this all over the place. Elton John certainly did. It is a big, fat polysynth. UK, Eddie Jobson, the master of this gadget. I'm telling you right now, neither of these are plugged in. Don't yell at me. A 4-voice Oberheim on top and below it, a very, very special modified Fender Rhodes Mark I that's been modified with Dyno My Piano electronics. And this sounds like there's a DX7 built in, like bells. It's beautiful. The 4-voice always sits here. It's usually plugged in and we usually use it. We keep it out in the open because we're big fans of Lyle Mays, who passed away a number of months ago. And this reminds us of him. And we listen to a lot of Lyle Mays too.
I never plugged it back in when I changed the battery up.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll get a plug back in. I just saw somebody mention the Yellow Jackets. We'll talk offline. I got a good story about that, about them. Okay, here's an interesting RMI electric piano. Vince Senior, you know the model because I'm going to get it wrong. I see you reaching for the mute.
68D.
68D.
Yeah, there was
Okay.
4 of them. There's 4 of them built, and there's probably 2 left in the world. It's velocity sensitive on the keys, which regular RMIs were not velocity sensitive. It's very,
And it's
very
dead
rare.
mint. And it sounds like an RMI. No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Hey,
it does.
Vince, do me a favor. Can you get back over? Hang on for a sec. We were doing some sound stuff before. See the light? No, to the right, to the right, to the right.
But feel the keys are weighted.
Again, instant Tony Banks. It just sounds like Genesis. And the weighting is bizarre. It feels like it's like kind of spring-loaded and snappy. And the dynamics are not dynamics the way that we know them nowadays, to say the bottom line. Michael, so you just comment about Wakeman using these once. Wakeman is a big RMI user, and maybe we'll show you a little Wakeman stuff in a little while if you want to see it. Clavinet D6, and tucked away in underneath here is a little Neutron 3, which gives it a, hey, Vince Jr., walk over here, throw down on this thing. Just let me hear a couple songs. This is easier if he plays. He's not going to play because it's muted.
Okay, let me go.
We'll come back to that one. On top, we have a very, very rare Selena string synthesizer. So this is the Selena string machine, but it has a synthesizer built into it. It is a very special machine. We actually have a pair of these, which is fantastic. String synth of the gods, says Mike Hunter. Yeah, it's a very special machine. It is like none other, to say the least. And the D6 below, let's see if we got that guy spanking. And then over here, we have a synth I'd only seen go by in a magazine called an Alesis Andromeda. So why would an Alesis synthesizer be hanging out at EMEAPP? Well, the answer is, it's all set up. The answer is that this is a prototype of the Andromeda. It's not usually this color. It's also a fully analog synthesizer. Okay, it's expensive. It's hard to find. I was not particularly interested until Eric Norlander was in town for Prague stock, and he asked if he could borrow an Andromeda. So Vince Jr. and I tossed it in the back of a truck, and we took it up to somewhere in central Jersey for Prague stock, and I fell head over heels in love with this thing. Absolutely amazing. All analog. Okay, somebody just asked me the question of what's the third knob on the Wurlitzer below it. Okay, that's a great question because I was going to tell you anyway. Well, Tim put it there. Do you guys know Tim? Tim owns Retrolinear, and Retrolinear manufactures what we call a 3-knob interface for Model 200 and 200A Wurlitzers. This gives you not just the amount of vibrato that you want to add, but it actually gives you a speed control, which it desperately needs. It's like it should have been that way originally. This is a beautiful red Model 200A and simply is the coolest sounding whirly I've ever played in my life. And you got to trust me, I don't say that very often. Very, very, very special piece. This is the mixing board that we use. This is a Yamaha 24 input console. We will end up getting a digital board for here, but the analog board does the job oh so well. Okay, folks, you ready? Dun, dun, dun. Step up, Vince. It's already spitting sounds. So this is an Italian steel fawn S900 console, very rare. Didn't know what to expect when this one showed up, but Vince and I had a great time when it first showed up. This is a big, fat sounding monster. I don't want to say it puts the Mini Moog to shame because it doesn't, but it really gives it a run for its money. I'll bet you anybody who's played one would probably agree. We also have its smaller brother called the Mago. You guys may have seen the Prophet 5. I hope you have. It's a very important piece. This Prophet 5 is pretty much a standard early Prophet 5. It has a sound like none other. All the echo and stuff is from our board. Sorry about that. And below it, I don't have this wired up, I'm so sorry, is a Jupiter 8 by Roland. Both of these guys are top shelf poly synths. They do the same thing and they do very different things. And they're both unique and they're both amazing. And to have two of them on top of each other is nothing short of really exciting. I would like to introduce you to probably the nicest sounding Rhodes 88 key that I've ever been in front of. Vince, why don't you walk over here and sit down on this thing? I'll come around to your left. We always have this guy wired up through a Neutron biphase, which is an amazing sounding effects unit. Sitting next to it is an octave cat and an even rarer octave stick, which is a modulation controller for the cat. I don't know if this one's wired up. We usually have a Mini Moog sitting here because what's cooler than a Mini Moog on a Rhodes? But we don't have that set up right now. We're now going to rotate around here. I'm going to show you a little bit of this part of the room. This is the convertible portion of the room. Different things going to happen here every day. I'm going to mosey over here to this far corner. We're going to ignore the Roland System 700 for a second and come back over here. We've been building up our collection of recording gear because we do recording work for an awful lot of artists and we're planning on doing more of it. And what we have here are a pair of channels from the original Olympic Studios console over in London and the second Olympic Studios console over in London. So you could think about bands you may have heard of, like, I don't know, the Beatles, Kinks, Faces, and bands like that that play through those. So we have a pair of those, a nice old Neve, and now we have a Roland System 700. Dead mint, fully working, gorgeous, stunning, complex, beautiful, awesome machine. I believe we have 10 oscillators or more on this thing, full sequencer, effects and everything. And sitting up on top, Vince Jr. has stashed a Chorus Echo 301 and a Space Echo 201. And then hanging out over to the right is a TR-909 drum machine. And underneath, a CompuRhythm CR78, which I believe I just saw that they're reissuing. I don't know if I actually read that or not. I don't want to start any. Vince, is this fire upable? Is this something you might be able to show people? Is the synth on?
It is on.
Yeah, the CR78 is the best. We're going to give him a minute to set that up. This is a set of Duntech Sovereign speakers. They're in here right now getting warmed up for our new control room that we hope to get underway shortly. We had a chance to pick up these beautiful world-class speakers, so we're exercising them. We've got a nice NAD amplifier, and we sit in here and listen to electronic music, Rammstein, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, really loud all the time because we can. A donation from Mike Hunter, right there. A beautiful PG controller and a Roland Planet S. We have a lot of people that donate equipment in kind. This is a wonderful find that Vince Sr. scored, a gentleman who had a collection of what we will call unique instruments. We still have yet to investigate what these are. If I come around this way, Michelle Moog's about to say, I don't think so, because it says Moog, but we all know that it isn't. So these guys here are going to end up on the bench so we can check them out and see what they're made of, because we know very, very little about them. This is the kind of thing that Vince Sr. does as a curator. He finds instruments that we've just never heard of. This thing is a sequencer. It's not even an instrument as we know it. It's a sequencer. Very, very special stuff.
This is good to go.
Okay, let's have a listen to a Roland System 700. Do it, Vince. So that's a little taste. Vince is working on a piece of music right now. This should hopefully be done in a couple of weeks. We'll put it up online at EMEAPP.org for you guys to have a listen and see. Okay, we're out of this room, folks. We're going to go look at a couple modular synthesizers. Corley, we're coming in. Do you have pants on? He has pants on. This is Corley. That's Corley. Turn your volume down all the way there. This is Corley looking at Corley on a monitor. This is that you are on TV. This is a project I'm currently working on. Vince Jr. has that System 700 package working. This one is a pair of vintage Korgs, 3000 series Korgs, and a Korg. Is this an MS-20? I think this would be, Vince Jr. I don't know. Somebody will tell me. I'll be right or wrong. A very old Korg sequencer down here. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate the yes on that one. And then we have this system going through Neil Young's Electrodyne console. Vince Sr. spotted this guy here. This has been completely rebuilt. We just have to do the meters at this point, and then it's done. But this is 1973-74, and to the best of my studies, this was the board that recorded Neil Young's Needle and the Damage Done, which of course was a live performance. Very special Electrodyne console. And then down next to it is an EMT 250 digital reverb. This gigantic space heater looking thing is actually a digital reverb. And then the recording system itself, I'm a Logic user because I love Logic. This system has in it a pre-Helios console made by Eric Swettenham, and this came out of the Rolling Stones mobile truck. So this board recorded Led Zeppelin 2, 3, 4, Houses of the Holy, Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers, and Deep Purple's Machine Head, including Smoke on the Water. Very special stuff. And then we have a number of preamplifiers that we picked up from Neil Young as well. This is our portable system. We are currently fundraising to build a real control room, and we look forward to having that. But in the meantime, we roll that where we have to. This is an EMS 100. Yes, the Stones Mobile has done a lot more, but those are the ones that I can remember. The other thing too is the console that we have here from the Stones Mobile was from their first console, which they upgraded in 1971, and then a lot more was done. This is an EMS Synthi 100 that we picked up from Germany. It has a vocoder 5000. We have not yet fired this up, and it will probably be more than a year from now before we rebuild the power supplies and make it safe to fire up. We do take our time with projects like this because we certainly don't want to damage it. Up on top, you'll see a Roland System 100 on the end and a series of intriguing sequencers that get used on a regular basis here.
System 100M.
System 100M. We'll go over and look at that in a second. And down below, we have racks full of EMS and other gear as well, including this freaky thing. I love telling this story about Vince Sr. When I first started here, he found this thing called a synthetical engine. I have never heard of a synthetical engine, never in my life. He says, go online and research this. So I went online and I couldn't find anything. Then he says, that's why we do this. And that was very poignant because it's like, you're right. So at some point in the game, we're going to take this guy apart, figure out what it's made of, figure out what it does, do a nice feature article on it, and share it with the world. Triadex Muse, 1971. You don't play the Triadex Muse, it plays you, said Eddie Jobson from UK on a prior visit to EMEAPP. This is basically a fancy pants sequencer. The sounds are okay, but as a sequencer, it's amazing. Very, very complex, especially for 1971. And there is the System 100M. We have yet to fire this guy up. It's another package that we have our eyes on getting booted up so we can bring it to you. And then we have the computer portion of the EMS Synthy 100, 1973. A Pia synth, a Transcendent Powertran, which was actually a kit synth. Both of these were kit synthesizers. This is a rare bird. This is an SMS, Salamander Music System modular synthesizer. This one is on its way to being rebuilt. I won't get into the story now, but it was pretty much parted out, and Vince Sr. was able to rescue the parting out and was able to put it all back together again, keeping together one of the world's most unique synthesizers. I just saw a Pia question come by. Yeah, we do have a couple more, and I'll show you in just a moment. EMU synthesizer, super, super, super rare EMU modules. Vince Jr.'s favorite Moog sample and hold controller. That's usually attached to a mini Moog someplace. Another Triadex Muse, because we might as well have another one. This is a Polyfusion 2000 system. Buffalo, New York, 1974, I'm going to say. Hello, Wayne Campbell. I see you there. This guy is fully up and working. It is one of my favorite synthesizers to use. And it's intimidating and wonderful and awesome. Pia modular, here you go. Whoever asked that question a moment ago. We have quite a few Pia pieces. We haven't really tried to fire any of them up just because they are kits. And I'm afraid that I'm just going to get frustrated with it. But sitting below is a Wavemaker 4 modular, which is a rare bird to say the least. Vince Sr. got this as a rebuilt instrument. So Vince Jr. and I are hoping sometime in the next couple of months to get this guy fired up and in action. Okay. We're going to say goodbye to Corley. Bye, Corley.
I'll see you later.
Yes, you will see me later.
Well, I'll see you now. But
You'll see me now. I'm going to show you guys the office right quick. We are a legitimate organization and we do office stuff. And this is where it all happens. That's the turntable that plays all the old electronic music. Got a picture of the dude up on the wall because we love The Big Lebowski. Sorry about that, guys. I'm having a hard gimbal time. And now we're going to head into the lobby and show you guys some really trippy stuff. So the door to EMEAPP is right behind me, and this is where you enter into the building. And what's nice about this space is a 1939 Storytone piano. So this is the first electric piano available for sale in the United States. I'm going to zoom in on the logo because it's really pretty. And the cool thing is that the bench hides a little secret. On this side, you got an AM receiver, and on this side, you have a turntable. So you can actually sit down and play your favorite music, whether it was on AM or on a phonograph. And it is an acoustic piano. It just has a pickup that, of course, picks up the vibrations, and then it outputs through speakers behind these beautiful deco-looking speaker grills. Here's one of the people's favorite things at EMEAPP. Vince Jr., why don't you step up and throw down on this RMI, Rocky Mount Instruments organ. It's on. That's what I'm talking about. Everybody loves it. Brian Kehoe, you can't get the guy off of it when he comes to visit here. Frank Zappa's settee, or that would be a love seat, I suppose. It's everybody loves to sit in it. Okay, folks, There are 3 of these in the world, and here are 2 of them. These are Motorola Scaletrons. The Motorola Scaleron, again, 1973-74, is an instrument that the Motorola designed to be able to utilize microtonal tunings. Whereas on a regular black and white keyboard, an octave is 12 notes. On these devices, an octave can be 1,056 notes. And yes, David from New Jersey, you got it right. These are generalized keyboards. Generalized keyboards allow the user way more access to different pitches. You'll see the black and white keys in there, as we normally do on a piano or organ. But then you see the blue, green, and red keys to the north and the south of it, or different colors on this particular one. And they allow you to access more notes in between the cracks, so to speak. It's also known as a Bozonk keyboard. It was actually designed back in the 1880s. George Secor accidentally designed it again, which is crazy. He didn't know that it existed. And he convinced Motorola to put these keyboards in. And again, there are 3 of them. This instrument actually came from George Secor, who died about 11 months ago. And he actually left this instrument to EMEAPP. His machine is loaded with synthesizer functions. Our original machine is loaded with a crystal patch bay that we haven't really figured out. The crystal is what maintains pitches or tells the unit what a pitch is, but somehow it's patchable and modifiable. We haven't figured it out. We will at some point. David Vancouvering is a big name in synthesizers and synthesizer marketing. And there's a picture of David right there. Thank you, Vince. Hanging out with Robert Moog. David Vancouvering was one of the secret weapons of Moog, but he also started his own piano company. And what we have here is a baby grand version of his digital piano. This is early 90s, and he was able to do what nowadays you have on most keyboards, that you could actually stack sounds, layer sounds. It basically brings a recording studio into the mix. He definitely was ahead of his time, to say the least. Keith Emerson also played this particular instrument on TV. We have a beautiful shot of Keith sitting right over here in front of his rig. I think that's actually an original photo signed by him too. Let us look at some stringed instruments, shall we? This exhibit just went up a short while ago. Vince Sr. put it up when I was out of town, and I came back and I got all happy. You guys may have heard of the $345 million David Gilmour Stratocaster. This is not it, but it's a replica of it. Sorry. It would be cool if it was it, but it's not. No, Mark, the facility is in just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here's an interesting instrument. This Stratocaster was Pete Townshend's from The Who, and he put 2 Gibson P90 pickups in it. He probably wanted the rigidity of the Stratocaster, but the tone of the P90s. And then he also put in a piezoelectric pickup in the tailpiece that is an acoustic guitar style pickup with that extra volume control. So he could do songs like Pinball Wizard and switch from acoustic to electric just by rolling a volume switch. In the band was another guy who played bass. His name was John Antwissel, and this is one of John's basses. This is quite a score. This is an Alembic baby bass, highly customized for John's use. And this was used to record Who Are You, a number of songs on Who Are You. And the electronics are pretty mind-blowingly cool. It comes along with a special power supply and EQ box of sorts.
LED fret markers in the neck.
I didn't know that, really. Okay, so it's got fret lights built into it. That's cool. And it is a ferocious machine. It also has a Bigsby tailpiece that operates backwards. The note drops when you pull it instead of pushing it, because Antwissel was like that. Eric Johnson's Stratocaster is this guy and this guy. And a beautiful Comet, a Hornet, with a custom paint job that we're quite fond of. Our guy, Doug, set this guitar up, and we had a really, really good time recording it one time. And then we have other miscellaneous instruments. I hate to call a Rickenbacker 4001 miscellaneous or a Tele, but these are all instruments that all have their own lineage. So Stu Rock says, where's the Roland GR and G series guitar synthesizers? Relax, man, we'll show you. We don't have that, but we have lots of other ones. The last thing down here is we've had a number of articles that we've scored with Electronic Musician, one on Keith Emerson and our collection of Keith Emerson gear. That was quite a doozy. And then another one on a lot of the hidden treasures within our collection. And then we also had, as I mentioned earlier, an article come out yesterday or the day before from Vintage Guitar Magazine on a number of our collectible pieces. Everybody who comes to EMEAPP wants to see Frank Zappa's kitchen table. Now you're looking at Frank Zappa's kitchen table. All hand painted. And this showed up before I showed up, but I love it. This is secretly our conference room. It doesn't really look like it, but behind me is a nice TV on the wall with an Apple TV, and we're able to work on our architectural drawings and plans in this space and have meetings right underneath one of Frank's platinum records. And a beautiful print of what we hope EMEAPP will become someday, with a nice addition on the front of it. We'll find out. Okay, I'm going to head back this way. Does anybody have any questions? We're done on this level and we're ready to head up to the next level. Are there any questions I can answer for anybody? Good answer. Alan, you got any questions before I roll video? Okay. Coming around here.
Hey guys, got a quick question.
Do it.
So you guys are pretty close to the Ensoniq boys in Malvern, Pennsylvania. Do you have any Ensoniq gear that's interesting?
That's a great question. So being a Philadelphia organization, I've been in music retail forever, whether I like it or not. And I worked for a number of different organizations, and I was lucky enough to be around when Ensoniq was blowing up. So we actually have a number of people have brought us some donations, including ESQ1s and Mirages. We hope to add on, and actually we just got a VFX SD from Rick Wakeman, but we're kind of not really going to plug that one in, if you know what I mean. But we hope to have a whole collection of Ensoniq stuff together. The VFX, the EPS, the TS, the beautiful, beautiful machines. I'm bummed that the company's not together anymore, but they certainly made quite a dent in the world of synthesizers.
Yeah, I've got a Pismo, and it's definitely something you should pick up.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we're doing. It's interesting because as EMEAPP grows, we want to add certain chapters, and the Ensoniq connection seems like such a logical chapter. I mean, the Mirage changed things. It really changed things. The Mirage was an inexpensive sampler that sounded decent. And then they followed it up with the, was that the ESQ1 that had a sequencer in it and stuff? And it really changed the path of electronic music. So we want to have them in the building. Same thing with Kurzweil. We had no Kurzweil. And then all of a sudden we kind of adjusted our focus a little bit. And we said, no, this is very, very valuable. Other than the fact that Ray Kurzweil is a genius, these instruments made a big, big, big dent. Our collection kind of focuses on pre-1990, maybe 1995.
There's a few stragglers here and there.
There are, and Ensoniq is one of them. Ensoniq, is one of those names that's gonna just kind of fall into the name into history. But for us, it was a very important brand.
And speaking of Kurzweil, in storage in one of the trailers, we have a prototype K250.
A prototype K250 is cool.
From David Van Couvering's garage.
We actually have 5 semi-trailers attached to the building where we store combo organs, electric pianos, parts units, road cases, staging, and items like that. So what you guys see here in this workshop this is pretty much the hands-on stuff that we actually use and we create material music with. Vince, is it cool if I run the video?
Go for it.
All right, so guys, I'm gonna adjust this thing over here and come over here. And let me see if I can find the right button that'll get me what I need. So I need to be over here. I need to share screen, and I will share Lenhoff Tour because Lenhoff is the guy we're working with today. Okay, so enter full screen. Guys, there's no video on this video. There's no audio on this video. I'm going to be speaking through it. If anybody has any questions, please either hit me with comments or jump on in and ask away. I'm going to start and stop because I'm that kind of a guy. You're going to see this logo quite a bit in the next short period of time. Welcome to Amp City, folks. This actually exists. Amp City is where we keep amplifiers. That's why we call it Amp City. Vince Sr., as an exhibit designer, loves vertical. And when you walk into this room, you get vertical. I'm going to say those premieres are probably from 1954, 55. Those amps that just went by, I'm going to back up just a bit, guys, because I'm babbling instead of paying attention to what I'm doing. Walter Becker from Steely Dan. That is Barry Oakley's bass amplifier from the Allman Brothers. Would you look at those? Okay, early Sound City from The Who. That's Pete Townshend's head. That is a Sound City PA head and John Entwistle's head. All volume, treble bass master. Pink Floyd. Oh yeah. So I'm doing this by video because there's really nothing to listen to in there. We don't keep these guys plugged in. We just pull them out as we need to. This is a breathtaking collection that Vince Sr. has put together of rare versions of all these amplifiers. And the room smells amazing. An offset Marshall head, that would be a prototype. That Park head in the middle is 1964 prototype. The other offset head would be a prototype. The big orange rig in the back there was Peter Green's from Fleetwood Mac. Rickenbacker Transonic solid states. They're very hard to carry because they're shaped kind of dumb.
John Paul Jones.
And what's cool about the Transonics, see, I edited this and I thought that I had another clip in there. We have two interesting Transonics. One of them was Led Zeppelin, that big guy right there. I'm sorry, it's in the middle. The Led Zeppelin one, they had 6 units that Rickenbacker gave them for the 1969 tour of the United States. Or was it 1970?
I believe 69.
And then we also have one from Ray Manzarek from The Doors. Vince has put together a breathtaking collection of Fender amplifiers, black faces, drip edge, JBL, tube, solid state.
I think the only one we're missing in the blackface collection is a regular Champ, Wave Vibro Champ.
Champs go for a lot of money now.
Yes, they do.
Okay, Sound City, here we go. This Hiwatt here, 200 watts of flame-throwing power from Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple. We have a bunch of his speaker cabinets too. Yes, we will be plugging that amplifier into some of those big cabinets. And yes, I will be plugging a bass into it and turning it up very loud. John Lord from Deep Purple used to use those same Marshall cabinets for his rig. And that's actually a Marshall PA system. This Mesa Boogie head is a bass head and was actually used on stage by Neil Young as the power amplification for his gigantic Magnatone speaker cabinet. So if you're a Neil Young fan, you've seen this cabinet up on stage. And when we took delivery of this, Vince Jr. and I said, well, you know, it's cool, it's Neil Young's, but what do we care about a Mesa Boogie 2 bass amp? Then it was months later that I'm reading an article about this Magnatone, because I want to know where the Magnatone cabinet is. And they said, yeah, we used to power it with this Mesa Boogie 400 bass amp. We would turn down the high frequency EQs, and that's what powered it. So we drove over to our other location, we cracked this guy out, and look at the EQ settings. A wonderful confirmation. Let's see what else we have next. Let's see what else we have next. There we go. Robert Fripp, folks. Robert Fripp's Hiwatt. But before it was used by Fripp and Crimson, it was used by the Moody Blues. I'm so sorry this is so dark, folks, but it's dark in that room. This will be Eric Clapton's Marshall JCM 800. We'll get a better look at that in a second. That was 1984 to 2001.
2011.
2011. Fleetwood Mac. That was the rig that Lindsey Buckingham used to record Rumors and tour Rumors. This is a Marshall 100 rig with a JMP head, larger than a standard rig. You'd usually see people like Page, Beck in front of Hendrix, in front of rigs like that. And this is all Pete Townsend. Four Hiwatt cabinets and a custom The Who Hiwatt head.
Complete with headstock wounds.
Complete with the gigantic hole from a headstock, because Pete would do that because he's Pete. Sorry for the blurry. Ampeg SVTs. We love these things unless it's 2 o'clock in the morning and we need to take them up a set of stairs. 8 10-inch speakers, big and loud. Ampeg flip tops, 12s, 15s, and 18s. Combos. A beautiful miscellaneous collection of different kinds of tube amplifiers, combos primarily. And we're at about 20 feet in the ceiling height-wise, maybe 18 feet or so. Those are all custom with a K, so those are all a solid state tuck and roll. The red, white, and blue one is a one of a kind that Vince was able to procure. And that little white one in the front is one of my favorite stories. I came into work one day and that thing was sitting there with a cover. He says, take the cover off. I took the cover off and it was like it was made yesterday. White sparkle, super clean, and a wonderful example of a custom amplifier, combo amplifier from that era. And then that second shelf was all department store stuff. Stuff you could get at Sears, Montgomery Ward, J.C. Penney's, and the like.
And to think this building used to be a refrigerated warehouse.
Yep, and we'll show you that as we go. You'll understand this area here was not the refrigerated portion.
It was.
This area was?
It was. There's the.
I just learned something.
There's
there's the old HVAC system up there. Okay, so we're walking out of this zone right now. We're going to show you a little bit more. Stand by. There's always something over your head in this space. It always pays to look up. Hey, there's an EMEAPP logo. That means I'm inviting you to EMEAPP.org and join us as a free member. Hey, look at how we're back. Frank Zappa's guitar rig, folks. So this is 2 Marshalls and a Vox, all JBLs in the cabinets, and those are his effects. Brian Parnell, who is on the line now, came down one day and we built this beautiful article about this rig. Dweezil Zappa, Frank's son, came down and we took impulse responses of a lot of Frank's gear so Dweezil could use it on his Hot Rats tour. And Brian participated by creating the technical document that explained the inner workings of all 3 of these amplifiers and what made them so special. They are fully working. The effects are not. Those are effects controllers. Frank had, well, they called it his refrigerator, which was an effects rack behind him. And these switching systems would control effects in that rack. And then also they would take apart effects pedals and stick them inside these actual boxes. That's a Neutron biphase that has been beat to a pulp. But it's a Neutron biphase. It's one of the best sounding effects on earth. We love it. We have lots of Frank stuff. We have his monitoring system, lots of personal stuff, some PA gear. We have his recording studio. We have his Neve VR 60FF Flying Faders console, which is dead mint, 60 inputs. We have his Harrison 32C 48 input console. We have his Euphonics console. We have his MX 1200 Ampex 2-inch 24 track. We have a pair of Sony digital dash recorders. The collection of Frank Zappa stuff runs very, very deep. All the recording gear is over at our other location, so we can't show you that today, but we'll show you in the future. There's the EMEAPP logo. We encourage you to come to EMEAPP.org and sign up as a free member. Okay, let's go to Yes World, shall we? I'm just gonna be quiet as I look at this. Oh yeah. Rick Wakeman, the keyboard player from Yes, just recently in the past few months decided that it was time to liquidate his collection of stage used gear. And before he went public, we were able to have a conversation and Vince Sr. was able to go in and secure some very, 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 very important pieces. The Mini Moog on the bottom, we got a D50, a DX7, and I can't see what the next one is. Looks like an M1 perhaps. And then this Mini Moog, this was the first Mini Moog that Wakeman had purchased. And he signed everything to EMEAPP. He's very, very much behind EMEAPP and the mission. We look forward to a visit from him when he's able to do so. This is one of the thrones from one of the stages on the tour of Wives of Henry VI, all autographed. A lot of his 1990s synthesizers, Korgs primarily, over on the left. And there we go. Up on top is his Hohner Clavinet D6 with a Systec chorus pedal. Hang on there. I didn't show you guys the good stuff. I got to talk to whoever it was that edited this. I was the guy who edited it. Hang on. The organ in the center on top of the case is Rick Wakeman's C3 that recorded all of the album Fragile, including Roundabout and the solo in Roundabout. In the middle is an RMI, I believe it's called a 600. Vince Sr. will chime in and tell me if I'm wrong, with green switches. That is ours. Rick does not remember ever playing one, but there was always one in front of him on stage. There's more Yes stuff. This is primarily Steve Howe's gear. The colored cabinets in the center, the Tequila Sunrise cabinets, were Steve's very traditional rig from the 1976 Yes tour of the United States. To the left, we have a Marshall cabinet, and its case below, and you'll see the Asia logo on the case. Steve Howe, of course, would switch between bands on a regular basis. And in some cases, he took his Yes gear, blacked it out, and used it on stage with Asia. So we have a number of pieces that would not normally be black that he had used on stage. We also have his Roland JC 120 Jazz Chorus amplifier, which is a very pristine sounding stereo solid state amplifier. And next to it is a little bit of magic, which is an Echoplex. Is that called a Group Master, Vince?
That's an Echoplex Group Master. Yeah.
That used to be used by Steve Howe with Yes, and it sat next to the drums. And it would one channel or a number of channels would be Steve Howe, and other channels would be John Anderson's vocals. And that was in use on stage for many, many years. And then to the right is another Mini Moog. And this one is special because this was Yes's first Mini Moog. It ends up that Yes did the album Fragile to raise enough money to buy keyboards for the new guy. The new guy, of course, being Rick Wakeman. The synthesizers that they used for the album Fragile were believed to be studio instruments. But of course, the Hammond was not.
And I saw a little bit earlier a comment asking if we have a Birotron in our collection. Well, we do not, but we hope to.
We would love to. If anybody has a line on a Birotron that we could get, we would love to. If you don't know what Birotron is, look it up. It's a pretty cool instrument. Also up on top there is an Oscar. You can't see the whole unit, but it's an Oscar synthesizer that we also picked up from Steve Howe.
Drew, I do know someone with a Birotron, so contact me sometime.
Yeah, I certainly will. That's fantastic. Thank you. What we're looking at slightly blurry here are two Marshall heads and a Marshall cabinet. The Marshall cabinet is a slant 1960A, which was used for Yes and then used for Asia by Steve Howe, and Steve Howe's 100-watt head. But we also have Chris Squire's 100-watt super bass head sitting next to one of Chris Squire's Rickenbacker 4000 basses. It's not a 4001, it's a 4000, and it has an extra Guild pickup that he put in it. An interesting story about that is that we actually picked up that bass through Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple. So not only was it Chris Squire's bass, but it was Glenn Hughes's. You kind of can't ask for more mojo than that. So this is all a brand new exhibit that Senior set up just a number of weeks ago. Hey, EMEAPP.org, come join us as a free member. Donate if you can. Anything helps. Case Hell. I'm going to change the name of this, but right now we call it Case Hell.
Case Heck.
Case Heck. Mahavishnu Orchestra. Could that be Jan Hammer's Rhodes? ELP cases? Yes. Okay. Lots of Who cases because we just adore the Who. We have lots of stuff from Jack Bruce, from Cream, Gary Newman. You know who Gary Newman is. That's his vocoder. This is a funny story. This showed up. I was unaware that Vince Sr. had scored this. It's a beat up old Rhodes piano. Okay. It's probably a rare one. So we took it out of the case and Vince Jr. and I set it up. I happened to then fall head over heels in love with it. It's a strange instrument that was a transition instrument, and it was used for recording rentals. So this was a part of SIR's backline rental. We don't know what songs this piano's appeared on, but it's probably appeared on some heavy recordings. But this is some of the research we're going to do. We're going to find out what this instrument was used on. It is my favorite Rhodes in the building. The Scaletrons are rare. Well, there's a Rhodes case for a Scaletron. That thing is heavy, really heavy. England Dan and John Fort Coley. I'm going to tell you a funny story. This was over at our other location, and I said to Vince Jr., this is nutty. We got to bring this over to the main location. So we tossed it on a truck and we brought it over here. A couple months later, I'm giving the tour to a guy named Michael. And we come face to face with this case, and he says, that used to be mine. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I used to be the keyboard player for England Dan and John Fort Coley. I'm like, well, that's cool.
And that's his name on top.
And on top, there it is right there, Michael Vernacchio. Hopefully Michael's on the line right now. If you are, let us know. Yeah, Greg, that is a Rhodes piano bass. We have quite a few of them lying around, to say the least. a little bit of Greg Lake love because we just love Greg Lake and Emerson Lake and Palmer.
True. Do you have the Dolly Parton electronic drums in here?
Well, it's funny, Vince. Thanks for asking. No, I don't. I didn't shoot
darn.
that one, but we do have Dolly Parton's. Are they syndromes or what is
Pollard Syndromes.
it? Pollard syndromes. Hey, EMEAPP.org. Come visit us. Become a member. Donate. All right. Oregon Avenue. Let me explain something. People in Philadelphia are going to get a kick out of this. In South Philly, there's an east to west road called Oregon Avenue. But in South Philly, they don't call it Oregon. They call it Argon Avenue. So Vince Jr. and I decided to name this area here Oregon Avenue. If you're not from Philly, you're not going to care. But you Philly people in the house, come on, 2 thumbs up. So this room changes constantly depending on what exhibits are happening. But this is a unique collection of very special Hammond organs. Overhead are even more. I'm not going to point out all of them, but I am going to take the opportunity to point out this guy, which is a freakish prototype that was actually the unit. It was the prototype unit for the A100. Some employees, and Brian Parnell, if I'm wrong, tell me, but this is how I understand the story. Some employees at Hammond were trying to convince Lawrence Hammond that there has to be speakers built into the actual organ unit, as opposed to having an external cabinet, a tone cabinet or a rotating cabinet. Lawrence Hammond did not like the idea, but he says, give it a shot. And they ended up building this, which then changed the Hammond organ trajectory, and they started adding speakers in it. But then this prototype was used for many, 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 many other tests. And that's why you see those odd home style light switches on it, a drum machine, a Rhythm 2 drum machine tucked underneath the music stand, etc.
Home light switches.
Home light switches. It's a big clunky machine, but it's adorable. And then you'll see off behind it, you'll see a light cut. Well, no, you're not going to see it, are you? But there was a prototype Leslie style rotating speaker cabinet. Yes, Model A, serial number 18. You're looking at it, folks. We also have the Model M100, serial number 1. Those are student pianos. We picked this guy up from Harry Connick Jr. He's a big proponent of EMEAPP, and this is an Electone series Yamaha. Okay, we have a problem with these compact combos by Custom. I'm just telling you right now. And would you look at that beautiful pump organ up on top? You guys want to know the story behind that? There is no story behind it. Vince Sr. saw it, loved it, put it up on display, and it will stay there forever. Flanked by a couple of Sims Watts PA cabinets. So these are the stand-up lounge organs called compact combos. And we were lucky enough to actually receive one as a donation from Robin Parker, who I hope is on. I think I saw his name go by before, from Suffolk Audio down in Virginia. And he donated a color that we were missing. There's the EMEAPP logo. Come visit us at EMEAPP.org, become a free member, and make a donation. This is the pedal room, folks. This is a crazy, crazy space. This is what happens when you leave Vince Sr. alone. We have probably in excess of 2,000 pedals. And again, it's a curated collection. This isn't just go buy everything. This is a what do we need to fill out the collection? And he finds some really, really unique items. Hard to find, super desirable. That's the whole Systech collection right there, because we're buddies with the guys from Systech who might be on the line right now, the Hawkmans, and if they are, we send our best. Tremolo units, vibrato units, distortion units. These are all tape echoes. Oh, it's insane. More tape echoes. There's the Benson. Don't even know what that blue one is, but I really want to plug it in. I want to hear it. We'll do a feature article on it. You can see a lot of these objects on our Facebook feed. That's a Halo Sound rotating drum analog echo unit that Vince and I took apart and looked inside, and it wrote that the heads are built in and the head rotates. There is no intel on this thing in the world. We have yet to find any even mention of this thing. It's another good example of the kind of stuff that we have.
Spinning celluloid rings.
Yeah, like records. That is a prototype of the Group Master. That's a Group Master. A standard echo plexes of different eras. More tape echoes and hybrid tape echo mixing boards. Super collectible high-end distortion pedals. That's a Klon right there. I just saw a picture of the Klon with Bernie Sanders sitting in the chair instead of the horsey. Oh, I thought it was funny. Those are talk boxes, but they're bags that you wear over your shoulder. It's crazy. All right, I'm going to bop ahead a little bit just so we save a little bit of time. I'm going to take you guys into our Moog exhibit. This is an interesting time right now because we're setting up for a big shoot. So you're going to see some modular synthesizers kind of lying all over the place. It's one of the fun things about this place. Rather than getting it all set up, I left it like that so you guys can see what it looks like when we're setting it up. And it's too big and heavy for me to move by myself. We have quite an elaborate collection of Moog stuff. This setup was put together because we were having an event and we were hoping that Michelle Moog, Robert Moog's daughter, would be able to come by EMEAPP. And we wanted to show her our commitment to the legacy of her father and how much we appreciate all the efforts that he put forth to create what he created in the world of electronic music. When our event was done, the Moog exhibit was so popular that we left it up. And we'll take it down someday, but for right now, it's all still set up, and we love to go up there, and you'll be able to see it in full glory on Google Arts and Culture. We have a big presentation coming out with that. Keep an eye out. We'll send out an email and, of course, put it up on all the social networks. I'm going to bop ahead again. Interesting rebranded memory Moog called Sanctuary. The new sounds in it aimed at the church market. We have quite a few of those. Okay, so first off, this is okay. That's a 1954 theremin that Robert Moog built with his father, signed by both of them. Kind of special. We have quite a few theremins. Okay. Normally, we don't have two sets of sequencers on top of this, but Joe DiMattia and I decided we'd have fun and throw an extra rack of sequencers up on top. What you have on the stand is the Buck Owens Moog. It was purchased by Buck Owens, the country artist, for one record. Buck was so moved by Wendy Carlos's record, Switched on Bach, that Buck Owens decided that he had to do Switched on Buck. I'm not kidding. Buck went out and he purchased this beautiful RA Moog synthesizer, including the very, very, very rare scale programmer. And he did one record called Switched on Buck. And then it got kind of blanket wrapped and stuck into a room. And somehow Vince Sr. was able to secure it and land it for EMEAPP. It was used for one project. It's dead mint. The one on the floor is the Penn State RA Moog synthesizer, which was delivered and installed by Robert Moog himself to Penn State. That is on loan to us from a good friend. And we're going to put that right next to the Buck Moog for the Google Arts and Culture event, which hats off to Buck. You got it right, man. And Vince, is that the University of Pasadena in the back? The other
Pasadena City College.
Pasadena City College. So we're always moving modulars around. It's one of those things that we do. This is the prototype for the, I always stymie when I say this. This is the prototype for the Micro Moog, designed by Jim Scott. This is what prototypes sometimes look like. And of course, it turned into the Micro Moog as we know it. That is a prototype SL8 polyphonic synthesizer by Moog. You've never heard of it. Want to know why? Look it up. Moog SL8. It's an amazing story. They were up against the Prophet 5 and the Prophet 5.1. These are percussion modules for old modular synthesizers, RA Moog percussion modules. I kid you not. This is such a popular thing now, but they didn't consider it to be a worthwhile thing to invest in back in the 60s. More prototypes, a prototype Moog wind controller. That's Robert Moog's power supply tester and prototype wooden expression pedals. This is all in disarray right now as we redo it, but this is a part of our Mini Moog collection. We're very big on Mini Moogs. We probably have upwards of 20 different ones, and each one tells its own story. So this is all getting set up for the big shoot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bop ahead again. Oops. And show you guys the Model A prototype, the Model B, C, and D prototypes below them. And the DNA of that Model A is in every other synthesizer in this building. It's a very, very important thing. You'll see lots of Mini Moog stuff coming out from us in upcoming weeks. There's the EMEAPP logo. Please visit EMEAPP.org. check out what we got. We're going to whip through the keyboard room. Lots of Don Buchla, monophonic synths, poly synths. There's a display of where computers and analog synthesizers meet. Orchestrons, Rhodes pre-piano, lots of tape-based instruments, Melotrons, Chamberlins, and the like. That little guy right there on the right was actually used by Bobby Darin so he could do Mac the Knife live without having to take a large band with him. In this room, we don't have any of the synthesizers wired up. They're pretty much just for display, but lots and lots of big poly synths, rare ones too, a Prophet 10 with a single keyboard that overheated, so they had to put it in a bigger box. There's a Wasp. You've probably seen the yellow Wasps out there. Lots of little mono synths and poly synths. I'm going to stop at this guy right here. Hopefully the light lightens up, and there we go. This is called the Starkey Laboratories Hearing Science Laboratory. This was actually a testing lab for hearing, but it actually has everything built in it to utilize it as a synthesizer. So back in the day, people would turn this into a monophonic synthesizer. There's the Yamaha GS2, the first
GS1.
GS1, the GS2. I always get those backwards. The GS2 is on the trailer. This is one of the first FM, commercially available FM synthesizers. There's a playback unit that you actually had these little strips that you can see sitting on top of the stand there that you put into a reader, and you had to load the sounds in before you played it. Here you can think Elton John, Michael McDonald, Toto, and bands like this. This was a very, very expensive unit when it first came out. Melotron Mark II, an M400 down here in front of it. And Vince, is that a 300?
M300.
M300 off to the left.
Looks like the lid is a little askew on it.
Wurlitzer electric piano learning system. I was just talking to a good friend of mine, Greg, last night, who hopefully is online. And we were talking about this system, and he actually has 6 of the student pianos that are in the, I think he called it vomit yellow color, autumn harvest gold. That might be, no, that's green. That's avocado green, yeah. The famous Cambrio, very, very special unit, 1979, so far ahead of its time. Multiple platforms of synthesis, multi-track recording, notation on the screen, all in 1979, 1980. Very, very rare. There's some wonderful intel on the Cambриos online. I highly recommend you go up and read up on these guys. We will do a feature article on it, but there are a couple videos out there that can show you what these guys are capable of doing. They are super powerful machines and so far ahead of their time.
Brian Kehoe is the expert on this.
Brian Kehoe is the expert, and a lot of the intel that you'll find out there actually sourced from Brian. DK Synergy and the K Pro 2. And of course, the Fairlight, the CMI Fairlight. This particular one was used to do the soundtrack for Full Metal Jacket. We actually have the discs from the movie, and it's a very special unit, fully working, very exciting to walk past. Frustrating that we don't have that guy plugged in and we're not using it constantly. I just put this picture up online a couple days ago. Queen's OBX, that's actually an OBX-A, so this may have been their second synthesizer, but the case is from their first. A couple of tribute setups for the Doors and Rick Wright from Pink Floyd. This is Tony Banks' Emulator 2. Oh, look at that road case. That's exciting stuff. If you're a fan of Genesis, that should make your heart race, to say the least. Yes, another Rhodes bass. And coming over to John Entwistle's M3. Vince Jr., I'm going to ask you to B3. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to go into the studio. We're hitting the last chapter here of this tour. Vince Jr. is going to relocate to another room. These are some of the very early electronic instruments we have. Ondiolines, 1929 RCA Theremin, a Swan, an Ons Martineau, stand by. Stand by. Stand by. Okay, we'll start here. This is our Emerson, Lake and Palmer suite that Vince Sr. just put together a couple weeks ago. The albums are primarily Keith Emerson oriented. The gear is from Keith, Carl Palmer, and Greg Lake. All these instruments across that back line were Keith Emerson's. This is Keith's last L100 before he departed this earth. This was the next organ in line for him to stab, stand on top of, throw around, and give a hard time to. He used it on stage, I do believe, with the band The Best. And on top are a couple sets of keys that were pre-stabbed by Keith. His techs always had to rebuild these L100s to keep them working well enough to use live on stage. A MIDI controller and a tube Fender amplifier that powered his Leslie's. This is a freaky Fender tube amplifier. It's beautiful. I want to plug it in and use it. Most of the switches are pull-out switches, and that powered his two Leslie's. This is Keith's personal warm-up synthesizer. He took this guy out with him. When we saw that gig bag, I almost started crying. This was such a personal object. I mean, the actual warm-up keyboard that he took with him wherever he went. This is Keith's C3 from the band The Best. The band The Best was amazing. Wait till you see the lineup. Go watch a couple of videos. Joe Walsh was in the band and was drinking very heavily at that time and was outpaced by the musicality.
Hey, Drew.
Yes.
Hey, Drew. It's a CV.
This is a CV. Thank you for correcting me on that one. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's an old 40-something CV.
So this is a custom-made Tarkus statue sculpture. And this was donated to EMEAPP, and the donor, I believe, is online right now. And a wonderful addition to our collection. You'll see that in the Google Arts and Sciences post as well. This Oasis is an instrument that Keith Emerson used to play. This was not Keith's, but it is signed by Keith. This actually belongs to one of his techs. And we're moving in on the Keith Emerson stuff, people, so hang on there. Greg Lake's 1969 Telecaster bass. Sorry, guys. My resolution isn't that good here. This is Greg Lake stuff. One of his bass rigs is Kemper modeling amplifier and his wardrobe that includes a lot of his stage-worn outfits that were also donated by an EMEAPP supporter. Vince Sr. is going to continue to blow out this exhibit as we go. It's very special to have personal objects of the artist and stage-worn outfits. It's not something that we normally focus on, but we're very happy to in the case of Greg Lake, Carl Palmer, and Keith Emerson. It's one of my favorite basses in the building too. Then over here we have Keith Emerson stuff. This is not fully set up, so we're just going to kind of take a look at it and go, but a lot of his stage-worn stuff, personal objects. That beautiful banner was brought to us in Los Angeles, and we displayed it over at Synthplex. It's very important. This was his personal exhibit when he would go out on exhibitions and appearances. This is the banner he would take. So, guys, we're going to go through a little change here. We're going to walk into the old cooler from the cold storage. This is our main studio space with our beautiful lighting system. And what you're looking at is Keith Emerson's stage gear, including his Moog modular synthesizer. There's a Gx1, his Goff Professional C3, his Oasis, split mini Moog, L100, SE Electronics rack mount synthesizer. And that's what I got for you there. Let me get out of the share mode here. And Alan and guys, are you guys ready to switch over to Vince Jr. In the other room?
Sounds great.
Okay, well, it's all you. I'm going to stand here until Vince shows up, and then I'm going to go join him in the big room. Great, guys, it was great talking to all of you. I hope you enjoyed the tour. EMEAPP.org. Please come visit, sign up as a free member, and please donate. We really, truly need your help.
Thanks, Drew. That was great.
Absolutely, Alan. Okay, guys, can you see Vince Jr. here and hear him?
We can see him.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, let's get back to this demo, guys. Very sorry about that.
Sorry about the technical difficulty.
Thank you, John Wright.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so we're going to answer a couple questions. Roger Peterson, they are preset in that some super minds created the ability to save presets on this instrument. That's what these flashing green lights are. There's 2 rows, and then this is the remote controller for said presets, and you can actually see different songs on here. The cabling has to be all wired up in order to be able to hit the presets, but yeah, they are presets. And to answer, I think it was John right before, yes, those are Gx1 speakers because there's a Gx1. And Brian, yes, that is a ribbon. We have ribbon controllers back over there. I'll show you in a second that would shoot the sparks. I'll take you up close on those. This is a Yamaha Gx1. There are very, very few of these that exist in the world anymore. This is certainly one of, I don't know, a handful that are fully operating. It's a breathtaking machine. I tell people that when I play a Gx1, it sounds like a home organ. But we have a guy named Ben Luce here who walked up to the Gx1 and he sat down, and I don't know what he did, but it was just, he turned it into the most amazing sounding machine. Keith Emerson, Stevie Wonder, John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, ABBA are all heavy users of the Gx1. Vince Jr., why don't you step up and hit a couple notes and show people what this thing, Aphex Twin, I'm all right with that. I'm a big fan. I didn't even know that.
Part of my sloppy playing. I'm not Keith Emerson.
This is cool because you can actually get aftertouch and vibrato physically on the object. They built in some super sensitive controls. And this thing is fully loaded, hand wired, and beautiful. So Mark, all I can see is how did he do the chords, but I don't know which ones. Hi, Bill Sauter. Nice to see you, dude. There is the knee control right there. This is the bender device, and you can apply different functions to it. Also, this unit, so John Wright, you got it. I was just gonna say this unit does have the full complement of bass pedals and a matching bench along with the speakers I'll show you in a second. Keith did not typically use the pedals or the bench, he stood. So because Vince, the curator, set this up as a Keith Emerson exhibit, we have the bass pedals stashed. Let me head over here and you can take a look at his bag end speakers. These were his main monitor speakers on stage. And then these are the Gx1 speakers. What's cool about the Gx1 is certain sounds are assigned out of certain speakers. So it's not like just a stereo effect, but it's a mind-blowing spatial result. Is this a clavinet L or C?
Clavinet L, C.
So this is a clavinet, the same type that Keith would have used for Nut Rocker and songs like that.
And it happens to be turned on.
Is it actually?
This was not Keith's, but it's identical to.
Play something, man. The sound's coming out of the little. All right. The stand that it's on is a 1904 Steinway. This one took a lot to land. This is like that tuna that took 2 days to get up into the boat. This is Keith's 1904 Steinway Model B piano, Brazilian rosewood. And it was in England, and you cannot get Brazilian rosewood out of England. But there was a change in the laws a number of months ago, and we were able to sneak this guy out. We had to modify our plans a little bit, but the instrument showed up. And as a curator, Vince's perspective was, we have to get this instrument. This is Keith's personal private Steinway. I wanted a beautiful piano for our recording studio, and this instrument shows up and was absolutely stunning sounding. So this is a 1904 Steinway that was Keith's. I'm going to show you guys this bad boy here. You will see the name Goff Professional on the side of it. This is Keith's C3 that is referred to as his Tarkus Hammond. That was very heavily modified. Al Goff at Goff Professional, and Al is another big supporter of EMEAPP. This instrument here is very heavily modified for the road and is certainly Keithified, and it is Keithified. You like that? And it's connected to this gargantuan pair of Leslie 122s that are pre-mic'd with Sennheiser microphones. So Vince, why don't you, and yes, so King Dog, you're right. The Steinway is in fact MIDI, has MIDI outputs. Thank you very much for pointing that out. You know more about it than I do. And I love the conversation about the CS80 being the mini GX1, because they're very, very different. Vince, why don't you throw down a bit? So that's the Tarkus Hammond. Oh, damn, that'll rip your head off.
That's the signature Keith Emerson percussion right there.
John Wright just pointed out the daggers that are sticking out of the L100. Yes, this is one of Keith's L100s. This particular one, we'll say that it caught fire on stage in Boston. It had a technical malfunction, and it ended up getting tossed in the case and disappeared from view for a number of years. Ended up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Vince went in and did a smash and grab, because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame shouldn't have anything by Emerson, Lake and Palmer, because they won't induct the band or any members therein. Therefore, sorry guys, we're going to duke it out with you, and we were able to get the L100 out. Many of you, how about 750,000 of you, were able to see this L100 and this organ. I'm sorry, this is not an organ. This synthesizer and this organ at the Met, the Metropolitan Museum in New York City. We ran an 8-month exhibit there, and this stuff was there. We were very sad to not have it here, but we were very happy to be able to go up to New York, and
It was in good company.
it was in very good company. It was an exciting thing. I'm going to show you guys this last thing. This is a split mini Moog. Keith had a pair of these. So the keyboard is down here on an extension cable, so he didn't have to take up space on his rig to hold the synth itself. The brain sits over here. The controller sits over here. And then also, this is one of his back racks, side racks that had backup Korg Tritons, big Korg user. This SE Studio Electronics synthesizer took over the job of the big boy when the big boy was not able to deliver for many, many years. And then also the power system for his monitoring system. And then we have a series of his 88 key controllers, a GEM Pro Mega 3, which is a gnarly piece of keyboard. And then of course, a Korg Triton Extreme serial number 1, where Keith even went so far as to write down a couple notes that he couldn't remember, or chord progression he couldn't remember. I love that. And he did it in a silver pen. And then an Elka DMP-18 bass pedal rig, so Keith could handle the bass duties when Greg Lake would switch over to guitar duties. And then we have a couple of miscellaneous things. I promised I would show some people the ribbon controllers. Let me get my gimbal out the way. No. Just got the, there we go. So these are the actual controls to launch the spark unit that's built into the back of these units. Fire, you got it, Brian. That's exactly it. And our good buddy August Worley explained to us how these units would take something called GRBs, GRB, which is basically like a model rocket engine, and it would shoot showers of sparks out into the audience. As these model rocket engines, they look like that. That could make a big mess, though, if we did that. And then over here, just to show you, we also have a nice little old school jazz setup with the last Hammond B3 shipped from Hammond, a beautiful old Slingerland kit, an Ampeg baby bass. And I think that you guys have now seen pretty much all of EMEAPP that you need to see. There are other spaces in the building. We have lots of storage, but I think for today, this was hopefully a wonderful journey and you guys enjoyed it. I recommend that you all reach out to Alan or reach out to us directly and tell us what you want to see. We would love to do this again. Maybe next time we can break out some combo organs. It could be fantastic.
Any Melotrons?
Say it one more time.
Any Melotrons?
Melotrons are like gnats around this place. You can't not hit your feet on them. We have quite a few, including a Mark I, which is try to find another one of those. And we can actually look at that. Maybe we could bring Allison Stout in sometime. Allison is a professional when it comes to the Melotron, and maybe she'll take one apart for us and show you guys what's up. I encourage you guys to come to EMEAPP.org. Please become a free member. It's a wonderful experience, and we want to hear what you guys have to say. And yes, we can use your financial help. We don't take donations and buy stuff with it. That's not what this is about. EMEAPP is the wraparound organization that we're allowed to go in and harvest greatness from this collection. But we need money to do it. We want to bring you music, original compositions, live concerts. We want to bring you workshops, and we do it now, but we need to make it a bigger, better thing. Does anybody have any questions? Are there any questions I can answer? Greg, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for letting us do this. Find us at EMEAPP.org on Facebook and Instagram. Please reach out to us. If you guys have any opinions about this and you want to share it with us, I would love it if you would. Roger, we're open to the public, but our doors are locked, so you have to reach out to us. And Mike, we would love to have Alan Parson come by. I've reached out to him a number of times, and hopefully he will. He needs to be here. And I'm loving all the comments that are flying by. I look forward to reading all of these afterwards. Any other questions, folks?
Hey, Drew, it's Vince for a second.
Yeah.
Again, I would invite anybody that wants to visit to contact. I mean, as long as it's one or two people, it can't be a big group, and you wear masks. You can come and
it's
spend
true.
the day.
Since Pennsylvania allowed us to go back in, and we're allowed to be here legally, we take very serious precautions. You'll see that we are not wearing masks today. Vince Jr. and I keep 10 feet apart. Corley and I are a member of the same pod, but normally it is masks for the entire visit here. So we do invite you to come. Just reach out to info@emeapp.org or drew@emeapp.org and just hit me up. I love taking people on tours. Vince loves it. This is a great time. So we hope that you guys reach out to us and, of course, visit us online and throw us a couple of bucks, would you?
All right. Well said, Drew.
It really shows that you love to take people on tours, and what a great organization. I really encourage everyone to go to the website, check it out, become a member, see if you can make a donation to keep this going. But this was fabulous, and I told people this is like Disneyland for keyboards, and it absolutely is. And I'm hoping that we can come back sometime and maybe do some close-ups of either particular instruments or some genres. But this was fantastic. The video will be up on YouTube, and we'll make sure that everybody has the link to it. But thank you so much for opening your doors this evening. And I'm sure everyone really enjoyed this.
Great job.
Well, thanks for having us, guys. Hang on, is that Bill Souter with a massive Moog behind him? Is that what I'm looking at there?
Oh, that's not real, Drew. It's just wallpaper, right?
Yeah,
Wink,
sure
wink.
it is. Not when it comes to Bill. No, it doesn't work that way. Nice to see you, dude. Well, listen, everybody, I hope you had a fantastic time. I look forward to doing this in the future. Bill, let's catch up soon. It's great to see you, man.
You bet. Great
All
job.
right, guys.
I think Keith has one final thing he wants to say.
No, do it.
I'm going to hit launch here.